How are y'all doing? Well, it's our first podcast with Streetlight Initiative.
Yes, it is.
Luke, and I'm here with Mike Coggins. And so, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about what is Streetlight Initiative?
Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm a street chaplain in Seattle, mainly focused in the University District right now. Streetlight Initiative the vision is to have kind of holistic, cohesive networks that are happening by neighborhood that involve churches, involve direct service organizations, but at the center of those to put a street chaplain who's boots on the ground, connected with the homeless community in that specific neighborhood, who kind of runs as like a quarterback between all those individual networks that are taking place to kind of help people as they walk that journey from homelessness to home. So that's the vision for Streetlight, and that's what we're hoping to talk about more on this podcast.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, and Mike, I think one thing, with your lived experience that you have with homelessness, tell us a little bit about why you feel like Streetlight Initiative is so vital for our community in some of the story with what you experienced and how you feel like, this could be really beneficial.
Yeah, I think, one of the main experiences that people go through, there's a lot of different circumstances, but one of the main things people are experiencing in homelessness is isolation and loneliness and a lack of relationship. And as you kind of walk that journey from homelessness to home, there's a lot of people that you encounter along the way. You have the community on the street. There's case managers. There's people in the service organizations that you work with. But a lot of times those are very transactional relationships, and you can still feel isolated even though you're surrounded by people all the time. And so something I try to do as a chaplain, something that I felt like I would have loved to have while I was homeless, was somebody who was just a consistent, non-judgmental presence as I walked that journey. And whether I was getting things done, whether I was moving through services or not, just to have somebody who was consistent and who was there with me would have been so crucial. And there was people who played that role in bits and pieces along the way, but my hope is to create more of that.
Yeah. So one thing that's really unique about Streetlight Initiative is this idea of you being a chaplain. And a lot of people say, well, I mean, we have case managers and we have a lot of people in the community that are doing a lot of work around services with our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. But what's the unique role of a chaplain? Like when you describe yourself as a chaplain, what's the unique role of a chaplain in a community?
I think a chaplain, what would distinguish a chaplain from, a lot of people when they hear chaplain, they think of like a pastor or something like that. To me, a pastor moves in a certain context. He usually has a church or a congregation. He does a lot of oversight with that. So in that sense, I'd say it's not a pastor, but there's pastoral aspects of it. If you think of pastoring as shepherding, as walking alongside, as sitting with people in trauma and in pain. And then there's aspects that are case management aspects as well, because people have very real, tangible needs. So there is navigating services. There is getting sleeping bags or getting people into treatment, things like that, stuff that case managers do. So you kind of take those two and you put it together. At the center of that, I would say, is someone who is just present, somebody who's there, who is has created enough spaciousness within themselves that the person that they're sitting with can come up for air and breathe around them if they want to. Yeah. And there's no agenda. I think that's the big thing. A lot of people, when they work with a case manager, they feel like they need to be checking things off the box, or else we're not doing, the relationship isn't working. And then sometimes with a pastor, people feel like they need to be only talking about spiritual things, or they
you have to be at a certain place.
Exactly. Like, I can't go talk to the pastor and because I'm not doing well and I have some moral failure that I need. And so for me, I feel like I get this unique mesh of those, but also this separateness with being a chaplain to just be there for and be present for whatever the person needs and whatever the moment requires, whether that's, you know, going and getting a food stamp card, you know, or getting someone a sleeping bag, or whether it's just sitting on a sidewalk and smoking a cigarette because somebody just witnessed an overdose or just overdosed themselves and they just need someone to sit with them. So it's a lot of different things, and I like to keep that wide open. But yeah, I mean, if you think about all the places where they have chaplains, they have them in hospitals, they have them in jails, they have them in war, they have them anywhere where there's suffering taking place, and there's people suffering out on the street, and they need someone who can be there with them for that. So.
Yeah, no, I remember that story that you mentioned that, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but on Friday Feast, the gentleman that you ran into that had some medical issues, and just that story of just being a quiet presence in that sense, and sometimes not even having to say a certain thing. I think sometimes you get trapped, like you feel like I have to have the answers, or I have to have solutions, or I have to have, you know, but just that quiet presence is so impactful. And people that are experiencing homelessness on the streets know who those people of peace are, you know, and I think chaplains definitely fill that role. One of the things that, Mike, you've taught me a lot is just how we see people is so vital to the work that you're doing, not only as a chaplain, but in Streetlight Initiative. Can you just take me into a couple nuggets for not only the team who's helping to support you, but those who are listening in? Like, what are a couple nuggets of how you look at people as you're just present, you know, on the streets in the U District, and why is that important for people to understand, you know, how you see people kind of is the way that you'll treat people? So
yeah, I think no matter what you're saying or what you're doing, people can feel the way you're looking at them. So you can be out there serving folks, you can be out there doing a ton of good work from an external standpoint, and it is good work. But if there's a fundamental lens that sees this person as broken, as sick, as lost, as demon possessed, you hear a lot of that in the Christian world, thinking these people are full of demons. If you that's how you see someone, they're gonna feel that, and that reinforces an identity on them.
The identity of an addict, the identity of
addict, homeless, like putting these things on top of them reinforces the isolation that is the reason that they're there in the first place. And so, in a sense, you can actually, in the very act of doing a good deed of passing out socks or working at a soup kitchen or being at a shelter, you can be reinforcing that isolation just by the way you see somebody. And so the way I try to look at it, and it takes work, it takes practice to be able to see Christ in folks, to be able to see that spark of divinity and draw that gold out, because I mean that's the gospel is that's how God sees us. God sees us as very good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I think we can get so hung up on the idea of people's sin and their brokenness and their separateness that we forget that before original sin was original goodness. You know, that's the very beginning of the book.
Right.
And to be able to see through that lens, all of a sudden, when you're truly seeing that in somebody, then they start to see it in themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at them and you're like, there it is.
Yeah.
You know, there's that goodness in there. There's that spark. You may have been told all these things about yourself and now you're living them out, but I see this. And then they start to see it in themselves. And when you move from that place and that lens, there's transformation that actually takes place. And you can use the vehicle of passing out food or socks or whatever the vehicle is, but it's how you're seeing them that they then start to see themselves differently. And we meet and we hear about these great heroes of the faith that saw people differently. And, Mother Teresa was one of them.
Yep.
She when she was out there working with a leper, ministering to them, it wasn't her doing her good Christian duty to help this hurt, broken person. That was Christ. Mm-hmm. That was Christ in all his distressing disguises, as she would put it.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. She was out there with her beloved.
Yeah.
And that's the lens that we got to try to cultivate.
Well, and I think that's so vital, because as you talk about this path and this bridge from homelessness to home, really you can't get to home until you can first meet with individuals where they're at, mm-hmm. and that place they're at. And like you mentioned in your story, like sometimes people help me to see in myself what I couldn't see in myself yet. They saw things in me that I couldn't even see in myself. And I think that's a huge part of like that initial beginning aspect is probably the most key point, is how do we really do that in our communities, and how do we really come alongside people without an agenda, mm-hmm. without a certain motive, without a blueprint for this is how it works with everybody, because everybody's situation is so different and there's a complexity to it.
Right.
And I think part of it is getting down to the heart of what's actually at the heart of this situation, and not just the symptoms that I see on the outside. I think one thing that's interesting, Mike, you talk about this bridge from homelessness to home, and you kind of break it down into kind of the idea of like there's on the streets of where we find individuals, but then there's these services and resources that can kind of help a person on their pathway, and then there's home. But you talked about there's these gaps. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about those gaps that you see, and what does companionship look like from homelessness to home?
Yeah, so you kind of got three circles, three spheres that people kind of walk through. They're usually starting, you would say, on the street, chronic homelessness, addiction, everything that comes with that. Usually in that sphere, they have a family of sorts. As dysfunctional as it is, that is family. I had a amazingly beautiful dysfunctional street family that I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for those people. And in our common suffering, we bonded together. Mm-hmm. So you have that. A lot of times, someone is on their way out, and they want to get off the street. They want to get clean. They want to kind of move out of that situation, and they will meet with an outreach worker. Someone who is out there, or a case manager that they meet through a drop-in center, a shelter, and they kind of start to walk that journey. Most people would, the kind of the language right now is like, well, they're homeless, let's get them a house. They just need to go inside. And so that seems to be the main focus and the main goal of most of our, where most of the money's going towards, where most of our kind of services are geared towards, is like, let's just get people into housing. Right. And so they usually walk with the case manager, and they walk into housing, and unfortunately, things seem to get worse once you stick someone inside a box and tell them, all right, you're good, all your problems are fixed now, you're not homeless anymore. You and I both know that home is not four walls and a roof. Mm-hmm. Home is where you experience belonging. It's where you become whole again, where there's safety, where there's love. And so a lot of times what happens is people get into their housing, and there's all this trauma, there's all this stuff that, like, now things get a little quiet, they're not in survival mode as much, and all that stuff starts to come flooding back. And addiction gets worse, and mental health gets worse. Right. And in the midst of that, they are now isolated from their community, the only community they knew, which was on the street. And so a lot of times what happens is they'll either do one of two things, is we're going to leave the housing and they'll go back out to the street, or they're going to bring the street into the house. Them, yeah. And so you get, it causes a lot of problems that we're just now starting to see the ripple effect of. And so the way I look at it is, you've got this whole other sphere over here that we're not really paying much attention to, and this is what I would call the home sphere, which is intentional community. And I think that the potential for that lies in church, like a healthy spiritual community that is not focused on converting people to their way of thinking or getting them into a club, but just wants to help people become people again.
Yeah.
So there's a
family.
Yeah, a family. To have somebody around you that cares about you, that is intentional with your life and sees things in you that maybe you can't see in yourself, and kind of helps cultivate that and bring that out. And so a lot of times what happens is the people who are here in their housing or over here on the street, they're a little too traumatized to go walk into your average church building on a Sunday morning.
Right.
And there's a lot of people,
which is real. Yeah.
Very real.
The trauma of that.
We're in America in 2025, man. There is a whole lot of church trauma taking place, and I'd say most of the people that I work with have some severe trauma surrounding church.
Sure.
And so a lot of times they're not going to go just walk unless they're very just in a place where that's something they're willing to do.
Yep.
And so there's a disconnect. And then you also got these people over here that want to help. They want to come over to this side of things.
You're talking about individuals in a church that are part
correct.
of a church.
Yeah, great hearts. There's a huge desire, but they don't know how to connect. They feel isolated from this world. They feel
there's a lot of fear.
Yeah, tons of fear. Yeah. And so how do we bridge that gap? So what I try to do as a chaplain is I'm present in this circle over here. I am like in the street. I know the politics of the street. I know the community in the street, and I'm meeting people here. And then as we're walking into services, I'm kind of walking alongside as they're with a case manager, they're with outreach workers, and we're kind of working on services and just getting basic needs for survival met. But once they get into this area and the case manager has to turn around and go back and start working with other people, and they're kind of in this spot where maybe they've gotten clean recently and they can't connect with their old friends. On this side, I got a new family to walk them into, and I don't leave. I'd say, hey, come on, let's go. I got other people over here, and we got people I want you to meet. And the whole idea is to have friends along the way, where it's not, they don't feel like they're moving into a forced situation, but they feel like they are, I'm their friend, and they feel like they're just meeting more friends.
Yes.
And we're just building a bigger network, and we're building a bigger family. And then opening the door from the home sphere into the housing and the services to get people inside these buildings who can cook meals, who can go visit, who can kind of teach basic skills that a lot of times we don't learn out on the street. Sometimes we don't know how to clean our house or to get supplies to, do laundry or any of these things, where all of these people over here have been doing and know. I think they have so much more to offer than they realize. They may think, oh, I haven't struggled with addiction. I don't know how to talk to them about this or that, but you know how to cook, you know how to clean, you know how to do these things that and then also these people have so much to teach as well. So I think just opening up those pathways between all these different spheres is kind of something I'm super blessed to get to do. So
you're kind of like a chaplain on this pilgrimage through a community where you're helping to find individuals to find that community, that connection, where they can really live in their true identity, kind of. Yeah, almost.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's this beautiful journey that we're all on, and when it's not separated us and them, but we're all on this journey together. That there's this mutual flourishing that happens as we see the humanity in each other, as we see the image that each of us have and the identity. It's a beautiful process. So I look at that journey, Mike, and that's what Streetlight Initiative is, and that's what you are. That's your journey into, like, you've taken that step to say, this is what I'm about, and I'm helping others to kind of take that journey. So tell us a little bit about what October 30th represented to those who have kind of jumped on and said, man, we want to support the work that you're doing.
Yes. So October 30th was the official launch of Streetlight Initiative, which was basically just making official and putting language to stuff that's already been happening. This kind of framework, this rhythm, this kind of way of things is stuff that just sort of naturally started happening as I kind of moved on this journey, and then through talking with you and just sitting and praying together and brainstorming, we were able to kind of put language around it. And then that's where the term Streetlight Initiative kind of came from. So on the 30th, we had a ton of people more than I thought was going to be.
It was incredible.
Filled out the room. A bunch of people showed up. There was so much love there, man. It was really cool to see all these people that I just love so much from all these different spheres in a room together.
Right. Right.
Just there to support and believe in this thing. And so, yeah, that was the what happened there. We kicked it off. There was people who, very generously donated financial support. We got people who are praying regularly for the work that's happening and for us. And so, yeah, now we're what is it? December.
Yeah.
So we're
just kicked into December, man.
Yeah, a little over a month out since it started, and it's been busy, man. I feel like some sort of release happened after the 30th, where all of a sudden doors just started to open. So I've been getting invited into spheres that I haven't been in before. I was invited to a community city council meeting to be there as the chaplain for the university district. Wow. Me and you've been going and speaking with students, with churches. There's just been a lot of just an opening up of doors to where we're starting to get the language out there about street chaplaincy, about creating a more cohesive network of within the neighborhood. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've just been doing the thing, man. A lot of that, a lot of just being present on the street with people, present in different spheres of influence, where I think I see a lot of beautiful fruit happening. Yeah. Places like Friday Feast. That's a place where I'm there every Friday, every week, at a table. Yep. Me and you have talked a lot about the table.
Eat this at the table.
Yeah, I think anywhere where there's a table in a neighborhood, you start to see communion taking place between folks. So, That
is beautiful, man. Well, I know that that to be a part of that night for you was a culmination of a vision, or whatever you want to put it, over a long time of what the Lord had put on your heart and what you felt really called to. But to see individuals come along and say, we believe in you, Mike, and we believe in this vision of Streetlight Initiative, and we believe what we're seeing happening in the U District, we want to be a part of this. And so you had individuals that were giving one-time donations, or you had individuals that are saying, we want to support you monthly. You had churches coming and saying, we want to support you monthly. It really, to see the community come together, the faith community and just the community at large come together and support the work that is happening in Streetlight Initiative was so beautiful. And it was great to see that on your face, because just all those individuals who are there and people coming along and supporting that is huge. And I know part of your heart has been, hey, this is an us thing. Yeah. This is not a me thing. This is us and the work that's happening. And so that's really cool to hear. And you kind of talked about Friday Feast and the involvement there. But can you share a couple things that have just been going on, a couple highlights in those first couple months with Streetlight Initiative, a couple things that you've seen or that you're working on with that?
Yeah, so I mentioned Friday Feast. That's a place I'm there regularly. It's a place I want to be present. And, Colin, who's been doing the work there, cooking the meals, serving at Friday Feast for 25 years. Just the faithfulness there is wild. Me and him have started to become pretty close. We're spending time together, praying and brainstorming and talking and just trying to think how we can become more intentional with the space. And it's cool. Things are starting to happen. So I got Let
me jump in just for a second. First, for those who may not know, tell me a little bit about Friday Feast, just what it is. Yeah. Because you mentioned the name, but some people might not be familiar with Friday Feast is. What is that within the community?
Yeah. So Friday Feast is it's a meal that happens once a week. Fridays, it happens in the parking garage of Chapel on the Ave. Mm-hmm. It was happening in other spaces before that, but for a while now, it's been the central location. Yeah. And it's just a beautiful. it's different. There's you hear, you're like, okay, well, that's just a meal. There's a lot of those that happen,
Right.
but there's something different there, and it's one of those things I can't quite put words to, but you got to go there to experience it. And I invite anybody to just show up and come sit down. The food's amazing. That's where I eat on Fridays.
Yeah.
You can tell the food is cooked with love. You can tell that the people there are full of love. You can tell that the energy is it feels like a home space, you know. And as I listen and I'm sitting at tables with people and we're talking, you hear that same theme kind of flowing through the conversations of like, man, there's something special about this place. Even just the ambiance of the setting is like there's lights and they put little candle on the table, and you know, you're sitting there. It's not just a assembly line, you know, to feed people, which I've been to a lot of soup kitchens or meals where it's just like that. You know, you stand in line, you get the boxes.
Right.
There's this just unspoken division there between the people serving and the people being served.
Right.
But there's a setting that is more mutual where we're sitting at tables together, and there's just a lot of love in the air. So
yeah,
I've been there, man. I love being there. I love being in the kitchen with Colin and his crew, and just kind of, you know, seeing what they're whipping up each week. And so we've talked about ways that we can kind of work with folks that I'm walking with within that context. So we got an individual right now who, you know, he has kind of been coming around Friday feast. I've been working with him for a few years, but looking at a way that he can start to get a sense of identity and a little bit of self-worth, because he struggles a lot with shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And so having him start to come in and cook and be with us in the kitchen and serve, you know, getting him around guys like Colin and people like Ashley and Jeff, and just folks that are just going to love on him and speak life over him, is really cool. So we're kind of piloting that, and we're going to work on ways that we can make that a little bit more, where we can bring other people in and kind of maybe do like internship type things or volunteer positions, and to get people serving. You know, I think so many times we're like, oh, until they get this and this done, you know, or they're in this and this space, then we can let them, you know, be in this position or something like that. And I just don't see that's not really how Jesus moved either. You know, I think he just kind of was like, all right, let's go. Let's
go. Let's do this together.
Yeah, let's do
learn
it
as we go.
Yeah, learn as you go, man. And so that's the hope. So yeah, there's that.
Well, I think that's the beauty of the relational part around Friday Feast, and what we're seeing in communities really is that catalyst for relationship is around the ethos of the table.
Right.
You know, and to see the relational part is so powerful. And I think that's when you said something about this idea of like not the separation of like, well, I'm coming to volunteer and you're coming to receive food, that it can be a great thing. It can be a good thing. It's needed. Mm-hmm. But it can also be a separation where very transactional if both sides don't understand there's a giving and a receiving in that. And to understand that when you show up, maybe it's you're showing up because I'm choosing to have dinner with my neighbors on Friday night. And not that I'm coming to serve this, or I'm coming to fix a problem, or I'm coming to say the right thing, or I'm coming to take somebody from here to there, but just showing up to have dinner with my neighbor.
And that's the lens shift that we're talking about. Right. You know, it's like, how are you seeing this situation? How are you seeing these people? How are you seeing yourself?
Yeah.
And when we can kind of start to break down those walls, beautiful things happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's fun because even through the U District this year, there's many different churches and individuals and communities saying, you know what? This time around Christmas is this bittersweet time. Mm. There's this joy in the air. You think about great things and family and connection and people and tradition and, you know, faith purposes, what it means, what it represents, but it also can be some of the most difficult times because it's relationship. There's people you've lost. Mm-hmm. There's shame that you feel from things that have happened in life. There's broken connections. There's hurt. And so it can be this very much of a roller coaster ride of emotions of connection, but also isolation. And so the U District came together, and many people said it would be beautiful to see every person experience receiving and opening a gift that's addressed to them on Christmas.
Yeah.
And so it's great to see so many people come together. Now you have people that are purchasing gifts, and those of you that have the relationship with individuals right there who are experiencing homelessness to say, what would you like for Christmas?
Yeah, that's been super cool.
And then for them to be able to say, man, I'd love this. And then having somebody that buys that with care and love, wraps it, puts their name on it, and know that you guys are going to be handing it out through your community dinner, the 2 weeks prior, to Christmas. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's another cool thing, being able to see everybody rally around for that project. And it's just been a joy to be there, writing down names and gifts, and just going around talking to people, asking them what they want for Christmas, and seeing people's eyes light up. It's been honestly something that was resonated with me, that was beautiful, was how many people that we asked that were like, I don't really know what I want, but I know 5 of my friends that need this and this, or like their immediate thought was to other people.
Yeah.
It was just cool to see that. So we're writing down, maybe we talked to one guy, but he's like, I'm gonna bring 3 of my friends on Christmas, and he's like, and I know Johnny would want this, and Lisa would want that, and and so their immediate thought was caring for their community that is also out there on the street with them. Yeah. It's beautiful to witness, man.
No, it's we always talk about this idea that if you look for light, you'll find it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where, if you look for it, you'll find it in people, you'll find it in things. If you look for the darkness, you'll find that too.
Oh yeah.
And so I think what's beautiful about this podcast and the rhythm of this, I think, was the idea of trying to have a podcast come out on a monthly basis to just share what's going on within Streetlight Initiative, to hear the stories from you, Mike. Maybe there'll be time that guests come on and share. There's a little bit of mystery in that. But just to be a monthly rhythm to be able to hear from you and what's going on, and dig a little bit deeper into some of those aspects that we brought out today.
Mm-hmm.
Really looking forward to that. But what I would want to ask, one of the last things, is this idea about those who are a part of this team, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through the work that they're doing, whether it's financially supporting Streetlight Initiative. What do you want to say to those individuals, and what's other ways that people can partner with Streetlight Initiative? How do you see this as a we thing, a community thing? And what encouragement do you want to give, folks, just as you're thinking about that?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about how we can. How do we use the right language? How do we use the right sort of methods to kind of help people understand that, like, I don't want this to be, oh, this is Mike's thing that he's doing over here. I want this to be an invitation into something that's already taking place. The beautiful thing is, I feel like there's already all these things that are taking place. You look at a neighborhood and there's all these amazing things happening in all these beautiful communities, and I feel like I just kind of get to be kind of a bridge between the two, and I connect somebody here with someone over here and this and that. So I think I would like people to just look at what are their gifts, what do they have to offer, what is something that they're passionate about, because we all have amazing giftings, we all have things to offer, and there's a plethora of ways that you can just be a light in the world, and everyone is so unique. But I think just being willing to show up. So I invite people to come to any of these different contexts. You can, if you want to reach out to me and come hang out with me, just walking around the neighborhood for a day, that's one thing. If you want to come volunteer at Friday Feast, that's another thing too. Or even just come eat. Like, it's not going to be a volunteer thing. Just come hang. I think we should never underestimate the value of just showing up. Yeah. Just being able to show up and see what happens. And prayer too. I think prayer is the fuel for everything. It's the fuel for everything I do, and I think on a larger scale, it can be easy to overlook how essential that is. Yeah. And so an idea I played with and we talked about is maybe having people who want to sign up to be a part of a community that's praying at like a certain time every day, where you make that commitment that there's going to be an alarm that goes off at your phone on 2:00 on a Friday, and you just take a minute and you bless anything that could happen at Friday Feast that day, or you bless what's happening in the U District. You kind of put that energy out into the world. I think is something I am passionate about, cultivating and getting people involved in that. So that's a very simple, easy way that someone can get involved and help. And then also, I mean, financially, like people, we're super generous on the 30th, but there's lots of needs. Money has been going out faster than I realized, getting people sleeping bags, getting people stuff that has, that's all kind of coming out of, as the need arises, I'm gonna meet it. But as things are colder and more wet, that stuff gets run through a lot faster than it does at different times in the year. So, just very real stuff. I mean, like sleeping bags. If people want to give me sleeping bags, I will take as many sleeping bags as people want to give me.
Man, especially during this cold season, it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for all those who have supported the work that's happening. And I know there's also a lot that want to, to be able to give and support this work that's happening. So, I mean, there's some ways to do that. We'll get you connected with that. But thank you, so much for your support. Well, and I, as we're kind of ending this podcast, just want to give a thanks to, Pastor Kent too here at Illume, and just the space to be able to record this and all the creative work that he has done to partner with not only the work that you're doing, but the work that's happening in this community and within the U District in so many different ways. And so, it is a blessing to be able to work with him as well. So
we got the people that have rallied around, who are just have gifts in areas that I do not, has just been just filled me with gratitude, man. I don't feel like I'm doing this alone. Just feeling like this is a team sport, and that there is a good team around is like, I mean, man, it's beyond words how much that fills me with gratitude. So I'm just excited to see where it all goes.
Well, you put that on display well, Mike, so thank you so much, and look forward to seeing what comes of this, and we'll check back in a little bit with the next podcast and see what the Lord has for us in the next step. But thank you guys all for tuning in, and hope that you learned something new today and encouraged to see what's happening with Streetlight. So thank you, my brother.